We have a bonus tonight. We're going to learn another lesson. Likutei Moharan 142. I haven't learned this in about a year. It's a beautiful, beautiful lesson. Beautiful. So beautiful. Let me just see what's going on here. Okay, so someone who cannot study Torah at all. For example, he or she is either unlearned, or doesn't have a book, or is traveling in the wilderness, he's on the train, he can't learn. But the person's heart has a desire, it's longing, and he greatly longs to study the Torah. And he wants to serve God, he wants to do good in the world. In such a case, his heart's desire to study the Torah is itself an aspect of learning from a holy book. The person himself is the book.
Wow.
The person's heart is the book. The person thinks the holiness is outside of us. Everything's here. Everything is here if you want it. It's here. It's very hard. Now, Rabbi Nachman is going to explain what that means. So, person, obviously you still have to learn, but everything is here. So let's go here. Okay. For there are two holy men in the world. There are two basic tzaddikim in the world. They speak to each other, although they are separated from one another by many hundreds of miles. The Baal Shem Tov and the Or Chaim were together living at the same time. They never met, but they both knew what was going on between them. When the Or Chaim passed away in Israel, Baal Shem Tov knew he passed away because the lights went off. The spiritual lights went off. The Or Chaim passed away. So there's a big connection, spiritual connection. Rabbi Nachman was going to say something very interesting. That is, when one tzaddik is asking a difficult question in the Torah, in his mind he's asking a question. Yeah, that's an interesting question. And the second tzaddik, so one tzaddik is in Israel, he came up with a difficult question. The second tzaddik, where he is, let's say he's in Chicago, says something which is an answer to the difficulty raised by the first tzaddik. So one tzaddik is asking the question, and another tzaddik is answering it, but they don't know what's going on yet. And sometimes this one asks a question, and the other one also asks a question. But the question that the one asked is an answer to his friend's question. What does that mean? I always say, sometimes the question is better than the answer. Sometimes the answers are very boring, but the questions are good. Okay, so here let's look at the footnote number 2. What does that mean? When someone asks a question, it's really an answer to someone else's question. More than once it happened that a certain sage in the Talmud issued a ruling or said something. We're on footnote number 2. And another sage in a distant city, or even several generations later, though he never heard the original ruling or the teaching, arrived at the same concept or conclusion. Rabbi Nachman also teaches that there are times when a scholar will comprehend some insight into the Torah very easily. This was actually because a tzaddik someplace else struggled with it and labored very hard to discover it. The door was already opened through the original rabbi's hard work. It's a famous story of the Mechaber. Rav Yosef Karo was working on a question for like 20 years. He couldn't understand it. 20 years. He just was working on it, couldn't get an answer. One day he was walking past the yeshiva, and he heard this 15-year-old kid give the answer. And he got very sad. He goes, how did this kid get the answer? Am I that off? So an angel came to him in a dream and he said, because you worked on it for 20 years, it came into the world, and that's why this kid was able to get the answer. So that's one answer to this. Now, so let's go on with the Torah. In this way, they are really talking to each other. The guy in Chicago, the rabbi in Chicago, the rabbi in Israel, they're really talking to each other, but they don't know who each other is. But only Hashem hears what's going on. Only Hashem hears what this rabbi asked and what this rabbi answered. God is the big, how should we say, AT&T. God is the big communications mogul. So really, they're really talking to each other, but they don't know they're talking to each other. Okay. Now we're going to go to a pasuk in the Tanakh. And Rabbi Nachman always likes to go to a sentence in the Torah, and then he's going to explain what that means. Like, why are we here? Why are we doing this now? Why are we here now? Because we don't want to be bored. We want to learn new things. That's why we're here. Then, as it says, then those who fear God talked with one with his fellow, and God heard it. And a book of remembrance was written for those who fear God and contemplate his name. What does that mean? Those who fear God spoke with his fellow. That is, they do not speak to each other, but they in any case converse by virtue of one raising a difficulty and the other providing an answer. Yet no one heard them. One rabbi didn't hear the other rabbi, but Hashem hears it. Only Hashem hears it. So what happens? God heard it. Go on to page 2, number 175 on the top. For only Hashem hears it. He attaches words from one rabbi in Chicago, and he writes it down in a book of remembrance, and it remains forever in this book. Now, he's going to get to the next level now. To the next level. Now, this book in which their words are written into is an aspect of the heart that exists above in heaven. There's a heavenly heart and there's a physical heart. Everything above resembles everything below. Everything below resembles everything above. They say that the reason why an apple tastes like an apple is because spiritually it has that taste, whatever that means. How are we doing on the time?
Great.
Okay. So their words are inscribed there in this book, even though they don't know one or the other guy. But God writes everything down. As now as Rabbi Nachman is going to the next level, inscribe them on the tablet of your heart. So one whose heart is aflame within him, and he yearns to study Torah, but it's impossible for him. He's running around. He didn't have money to buy a book. He's too busy. He doesn't know. But his heart really is alive. Listen to this. Rabbi Nachman says, he receives heart from the heart above. He's connecting with the heart above. His heart is connecting with the heart above. And he's connecting into this book that everything was written. God wrote everything in his book. And from there, and from this place where God wrote stuff down, his heart is getting the yearning. So let's start again. A person is very inspired. He wants to do stuff, but he doesn't know how to learn. A person that realizes, I want to be religious again. I want to stop eating unkosher pizza. I'm tired of McDonald's. I want to become more religious. So he gets this yearning. I want to wear yarmulke. I want to put on tefillin. I want to stop fooling around. I want to clear up my life. So he gets inspired. I want to stop watching pornography. I want to eat kosher. A million things. I want to stop stealing. I want to stop working on Shabbos. It never ends. So he explains there that when a person really gets this energy in his heart, but he doesn't know what to do. He's like, what am I supposed to do? So he's connecting with this heart above. This high level of heart and his heart are connecting. And then he's tapping into this book that God writes all this good stuff down. So he's connecting to the source of the yearning. His yearning is now connecting to a higher yearning. And it's in a level of a book. He's tapping into this heavenly book and a heavenly heart. Let's keep moving. Hopefully it's going to work itself out. He's basically attaching himself to a higher level of energy, and it's has to come from somewhere. So, and the book of remembrance was written before him, and for those who fear God and contemplate his. Okay, let's keep moving. As our sages expounded, even if he thought about performing a mitzvah, but through no fault of his own, he was unable to do it. Happens all the time. he is credited as if he had done. He wanted to do it. He wanted to go for Shabbos. He got stuck. The train broke down. He broke Shabbos. Not his fault. He still gets the mitzvah of keeping Shabbos in a certain way. For that itself, for this itself, that his heart wanted to do it, it was thinking about doing it, but he couldn't do it, is considered done. This is because he receives yearning from the heart above. No matter what happens, he's connected. He's connected. In other words, this book that God's writing everything down by people that are saying good things, made by these two rabbis that were talking to each other, these rabbis also want to do the good thing, and they want to study, and they want to bring good energy into the world. But some people, they can't do it. They don't have money, or their family's not religious, or their boyfriend or their girlfriend is not religious, or their boyfriend or girlfriend is not Jewish. They're stuck. They have a job, they have to work on Shabbos. He has an addiction, he's smoking pot. A million things. It never ends. But the person wants to do it. Okay, so now you're tapping into this higher level. What is that, the 13 steps? 12-step program? Same thing. Tapping into something higher than you. Tapping in. Because of the strong yearning of their hearts, they receive this energy from this book, which is aspect of the heart. We still don't know what this means. But like we said earlier, there's a big heart in heaven that everything is being written on. And that's why people tap into this heart. Therefore, Abraham, who was the first convert, and thus had no one for him to learn, he was by himself. But he had a heart. He only had a heart that greatly yearned for Hashem. And he received, Abraham was so great, he received from this heart, the heavenly heart, which is called the book of memory, the book of remembrance, whatever that means. Meaning God would write things down that people said good things. God would write this stuff down. God doesn't forget anything that you do. Everything is written. So when a person is in that energy level, he's tapping into the source of good stuff. And that time, when Abraham was trying to become the first Jew, there were no tzaddikim. There was no one to talk to. He was by himself.
Okay.